What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Yes, it is that time again. Duelist Nexus format is right on the way, and we've been dealing with Kashtira for way too long. It is about that time we talk about a ban list again. And I have prepared a couple of cards we need to talk about, and that I would think would improve the current format a lot. Because let's be real, the current format is very diverse, which is very good for a lot of people. A lot of the decks currently are actually quite alright and quite healthy. I think it's just everyone is fed up with Kashtira. So let's hop over to this little list of cards that I want to talk about. We start with the elephant in the room. These 5 cards, I think, are the ones that are most worthy of appearing on the ban list. It's a Rysard, Unicorn, Fenrir, Birth, and the Field Spell. I personally am of the opinion that Kashtira Rysard should be banned. It's basically been part of 3 formats now. It started in Tier Limits format, where it was a rogue deck, pretty much, but a good rogue deck at that. Then it was the best deck after for an entire format with triple Rysard. And then it was the best deck still with 1 Rysard and no Diablosis, right? So it's been part of 3 formats. It's been the best deck in 2 formats. I think it's time that a Rysard leaves the game. If that's what they do, honestly, they can leave the rest alone. I have no issues with Kashtira if a Rysard is banned. Fenrir, I personally would say they can just leave it untouched. I can see a world where Fenrir is semi-limited. I'm fine with that, just as like an overall good card, right? So I could see them doing something like this. And honestly, this is something I would be very happy with. That would basically free us off the Kashtira curse. I think Sprite is not even that powerful right now. We've just been looking at a bunch of topping deck lists from the past weeks, and Sprite doesn't seem to be that popular. I still think there is some merit to hitting Sprite, simply because if you hit the other decks, Sprite is going to be back, and Sprite is even older than Kashtira. Yes, the elf hit hurts it a lot, but I mean, there's been a bunch of viable Sprite versions in the last couple of formats, so the one thing that I want to start off with is I would love to see them ban Ibli. I'm pretty sure this is like 50% copium, 50% could actually happen. This doesn't even have that much to do with Sprite. Sprite just happens to be the deck that abuses Ibli the most right now. It's just a card that is not fun whenever it appears. I would appreciate if they banned it. Just in case, I think they could hit one of these 3 cards down here. It's really hard to hit Sprite without touching any of the consistency cards. Normally, I'm not a fan of consistency hits. But in the case of Sprite, it's like almost all of its cards are consistency cards. So what are you going to hit? Like, you could ban Gigantic, but that seems excessive. A lot of people are saying put Starter to 1, put Jet to 1, or one of those 2. This depends on how you view it. Do you want to hit pure Sprite very hard? And do you want to leave some of the hybrid Sprite versions alone? Like Runic Life Twin or Runic for Hire Sprite? Both of those decks only used 1 Jet, 1 Starter. Are you okay with those decks? Or do we want to hit every single Sprite deck? Because if we want to hit every single Sprite deck, we have to do this. I think it's arguable. You guys know I'm not biased. I would never be. I personally would think this would be fine if they also did a hit to the Runic engine in a different way. Is that something we could agree on? No. Okay. I mean, if you really want to hit Sprite as hard as possible, this is what you need. This is my ban list, so I'm doing this. And there's nothing you can do from stopping me. We will hit Runic, don't worry. For Pearly, I'm in a weird spot right now in my mind, because when Pearly first released, it was pretty much irrelevant. And then Pearly got the first wave of support with Sleepy Memory and Pearly Lily. It didn't get to really shine, right? Because it was immediately hit on a ban list right as the support came out. And it was never able to overcome Kashtira. And now we get another wave of Pearly support with the new E-Pearly Noir. Do we really want to hit Pearly right off the gate again? I don't agree with that. I personally don't like that. Especially, I do not like hitting another memory spell. I think that is way too harsh on a deck that is way too new. Yes, the deck is good, but a deck is allowed to be good, in my opinion. I think the only hit that I would be happy with, genuinely, is a hit to one of those 2 cards, which is why I specifically included those 2 cards in this. I think limiting X Purely Noir would be okay. You can still very well play Purely with 1 Noir, but there's good reason why everyone plays 2. But it would not invalidate the deck. It would not make the deck less consistent. It would not completely kill the deck. Alternatively, you could also limit My Friend Pearly, because it's a good consistency booster to the deck, but you can search it, and by limiting it, you would make the deck slightly weaker and slightly less consistent, but still playable. I do not like hitting another quick play spell or main deck monster. My wish / my suggestions, if any Konami employee is watching, is limiting Noir. You don't leave Pearly untouched, but you don't completely murder it before it gets a chance to actually see play at competitive level. Labyrinth, decently represented in this format. It's won German nationals, it's won a couple other tournaments. It's been sometimes very well represented in Top Cut, sometimes not so well represented in Top Cut. It's kind of 50-50 between you can just leave Labyrinth alone because we also just get more support for it later, or you could just maybe limit Big Welcome. My preferred approach, which is what we're going to do in this discussion, is we're just going to leave Labyrinth cards untouched, but we're going to hit some of the problematic normal spell cards later on down the line, okay? We're going to have a little chat about Eradicator, Epidemic Virus, Dimensional Barrier, and Skill Drain a little bit later, okay? I think that's a fair compromise. Dragon decks. Limit Magnamut is long overdue. I'm honestly surprised that that has not happened yet. It's completely obvious that Magnamut is an insane card and should be at 1, and we'll still see a lot of play at 1. I like it as a card. I'm a fan of Bystials, but this card is too strong. And Bystials are very, very oppressive when you're trying to play any deck that is light or dark and is revolving around the graveyard. And I think Druis Worm is kind of the same thing. I think 1 Magna, 1 Druis, and then also having access to Baldrake still gives you a very, very good access to Bystials. 1 Magna, 1 Druis is very close to the Master Duel ban list, but like Lubellion is also limited. I personally don't have an issue with Lubellion. I think Lubellion can stay at 3. The Bystial focused decks, I think it's okay to still have access to 4 Magnamoots, especially when you go first. And this also just happens to hit Dragon Link because they play 3 Magnamoots for very good reasons, right? I've been thinking about Dragon Link this morning when I made this list. I don't hate Dragon Link. I like playing Dragon Link. I don't hate playing against Dragon Link. It feels like an okay deck to exist, right? But it's been forever, dude. The deck's been around forever. I guess this is also subjective. It's kind of like, do you want to hit a deck that's not too powerful? Because I don't think it is too powerful. I can also understand the people that say the deck has been around for long enough. We should do something to it. The only 2 cards I could think of that would make sense to hit would maybe be you know, this feels too harsh to me. Even as I'm doing it, it feels too harsh to me, but this is one thing I could think of. I think it, look, I think this is too harsh. I just wanted to mention it. If they really want to hit Dragon Link, they would need to do something like this. People in chat did not take this well. I don't think this would be that unreasonable. You guys are overreacting. Striker Dragon is an insane Yu-Gi-Oh card. I would not be surprised if this card would be banned, and I don't think anyone could actually complain about it. As a compromise, when I thought of Striker Dragon, I was like, a lot of people are going to freak out if they ban Striker Dragon. Maybe that's too much. I thought about hitting Quick Launch. Because Quick Launch, it's not only a consistency card, it's also just an amazing extender. Like, it's just a phenomenal card overall with very little drawback. I think Quick Launch could also be on the ban list. I think limiting Quick Launch would be okay. All the Dragon Link enjoyers in chat. Honestly, you guys are lucky with the 1 Quick Launch. You know what I would do if this was my ban list? I would do this. I would actually do this. I am serious about this. It feels too harsh, but I would do it. I would do it. You know what? I think it's funnier this way. I'm gonna leave it this way. I don't care. I'm doing it because there's gonna be insane amount of comments calling me slurs if I leave it like that. People are gonna skip to the end of the video just to see the end result, and they're gonna see Striker Dragon banned, and that's gonna force them to watch the entire video, right? That's why we're gonna do it. Unironically though, I don't think this would be unreasonable. All right, moving on. Branded. This is something that I don't think we need to discuss this. This is something we can just skip over real fast, right? This should have happened a long time ago. I'm a big fan of a lot of branded cards, but there's one branded card that I am not a big fan of, and that card is Branded Fusion. Not because I don't think it's a good card, I just don't like how the entire identity of Branded just revolves around resolving Branded Fusion. I would love to see people play more like, you know, synchro branded bestial type of decks, or like put other cards to work, because branded has a lot of phenomenal cards and a lot of ways to play it, but they are just all slightly inferior to activate Branded Fusion, and if your opponent doesn't have Ash, you just win the game. And I'm not a fan of that dynamic. One thing that you could do is semi-limit or limit Branded Fusion, which is honestly something that I think is probably realistic. The reason why I'm not a fan of it is because this has happened already, right? This has happened in Master Duel. This has happened in the OCG. As it turns out, it doesn't really stop people from just playing branded the same way, right? People still play the same deck and just less consistent. You still have Aluber to search it. You still have opening to search it. So my idea, I would like to see what would happen if they banned branded fusion and just made the deck revolve and just function in a different way. I think it would be very interesting. I don't think it's gonna happen. Branded as it is right now would die. You could play other versions of branded. For now, I'll happily take a limited branded fusion. I think something needs to happen about branded. These next two candidates are something that I believe needs to be touched. Not because the synchro decks are way too powerful or like Manadium is way too strong, but I just don't like that this exists. The possibility of Crimson Dragon summoning out King Calamity is not something that I want around in the game, even if it's only part of like the 5th best deck or 6th best deck or whatever. People are even arguing whether it's optimal to play it or not. That's not what it's about. It's not about whether it's the best deck in the game or whether it's the best version of the deck that plays this card. It's just that this card should not exist. Skipping your opponent's turn is not something that should be a thing, right? Even if it only happens 1 out of 20 matches or 1 out of 50 matches when you go to a tournament, it should never happen. They should just ban this card. There's still other very good targets with Crimson Dragon, and so Crimson Dragon could still be a problematic card. However, I don't think they would ban it so soon. But this card is something that I actually expect them to ban, and I would be very, very surprised and disappointed if they didn't. Runic cards obviously can remain untouched. We don't really have to talk about it. The deck has suffered way more than enough by semi-limiting Runic Fountain. The ability to not put a 3rd fountain into my decks is incredibly painful. I sometimes wake up at night in sweat because I cannot put a 2nd Runic Fountain into my deck. Okay, I'm joking. I'm joking! I think this should happen. I'm just trying to figure out in my head whether that's enough. You guys are obviously all gonna say no because you all hate Runic for no reason. Because y'all are not Giga Chads and Runic enjoyers. I'll give you this, but I will not give you more than that. With the popularity of Cosmic Cyclone, I think 1 fountain is genuinely a very, very strong hit to the deck. I would have to really consider twice before I bring a Runic deck with 1 fountain. Like, 1 fountain is super, super risky. You also can't do the whole, like, activate fountain, activate the 2nd fountain, Gary to bring back the 1st fountain. That is a play that you make very, very constantly, right? It's a very strong play to loop the fountain. Tip is at 3 in the OCG, right? There's only 1 fountain at Worlds, and no one played Runic except Dinkabui, because Dinkabui is a Giga Chat like I am and always plays Runic. But no one else brought Runic to the World Championships, okay? And that was with only 1 tip. No one played it. Even though every other deck was like severely hit, there was no Kashtira, nothing. Still, there was no Runic enjoyers. I think this is even enough. Me giving you the semi-limit tip is even like generous of me, okay? We're not gonna elaborate further. We're also gonna ban all the cards that are in the plant deck. Or at least one of them. Okay, let's talk about Rika. In my mind, the Rika deck is very similar to what I said about the King Calamity. I do not think that the Rika deck is too powerful. Yes, it won the European Championship 2 years in a row, which is, I mean, that's a sign. But I don't think Rika as a whole, in terms of its win rate, is too oppressive. But the deck is a top meta contender, for sure. You can't argue with that. And the deck's main focus, when it goes first, is to win the game instantly. It's a pseudo FTK deck. I personally think that is not a very enjoyable thing to have in the game as like a top meta contender. Even if it is only the 3rd most, 4th most, 5th best deck, doesn't really matter. There should be something done about it. I actually don't hate the Rika deck. When I say Rika, I mean the Rika cards, right? Not the Sun Avalon cards. I think the toxic part of the deck is the Sun Avalon combo. The Rika cards, I think, are phenomenal design even. They have a lot of very unique interaction. I think it's a very fun, grindy deck. What blows it out of proportion is the Sun Avalon combo that you just get alongside it, right? The fact that you just start with the freaking vanilla and you play for 10 minutes and you end up on full Sun Avalon plus full Rika combo plus an Omni Negate from Regulus and shit like that, it's just, that's not enjoyable, right? So I think something needs to be done about the core Sun Avalon combo. Leave all the Rika cards alone, they're all fine, but do something about these cards. People have been saying just limit the Dryas. Is it enough to limit one of those cards, or do we just ban one and call it a day? Because I'm pretty sure one Jasmine is not enough. You can probably still come up with a crazy combo. You could ban Jasmine. I'd be down for that. The thing is, we have to juggle the copium and reality here, right? Because let's be clear, banning any one of those cards would do it. Would they really go as far as banning one of those cards? And I am not sure about it. But the question is, if they don't ban one of those, what else do they do? You know what? I'm just gonna do this. Because this is the easiest way I can think of it. That's what I would do. That's why we're going to do it right now. And this is all I would do to touch the current meta decks. It's a lot of changes. Most likely not all of them are going to happen, but this is more like a discussion on what they should do rather than what they will definitely do. I think a decent portion of these hits are realistic though. Let's talk about some very generically powerful cards that have been talked about a lot before, and we're going to say the same things that we've always been saying. Prosperity is a card that should absolutely be on the ban list. Like Magnamut, I expected this to happen a long time ago. This card just makes all kinds of decks way too consistent. It makes you able to find all your side deck cards way too consistent. You go second, you find the board breakers. You go first, you find the floodgates. You bricked, you find the consistency card. You get hand trapped, you find the extender. This card is just way too powerful. Talents, one of the most popular staples. I don't hate talents enough to put it on the ban list, I think. Yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't feel like limiting or semi-limiting it would change that much because people are playing 1 or 2 talents a lot anyways. This is what I propose to address some general issues with the format and also Labyrinth a little bit. This is like a side tackle to Labyrinth, but mainly just probably the 2 most sided cards for going first in the format that ruin the most games after siding. I like the side deck as a concept, but the fact that these days so many games after siding are just decided by a card like Eradicator, a card like D-Barrier, some other cards we're going to talk about, it just defeats the purpose of the side deck. The side deck is supposed to be there so you can slightly adjust your deck for its problematic matchups or take out a couple cards that are not as good in the matchup against cards that are better in the matchup. It's not there to just, oh, I know I'm going first, so I can side this card that will always win me the game when I go first. I just hate that it is that these days. I just don't like that. I don't agree with it. These cards should be banned. Are they gonna ban freaking 15 cards in one ban list? 99% sure they're not gonna do that. I'm still gonna be here and say that they should do it because that's the truth. I'm not gonna hold back the truth only because they're not willing to ban this many cards, but they should. I'm just hoping that a subset of those cards gets hit eventually. The exact same thing is true, by the way, about Peekaboo, Anti-Spell, and Skill Drain. Probably the 3 most popular floodgates right now. In order of magnitude, Anti-Spell by far the biggest problem. Skill Drain second, Peekaboo third, but all 3 incredibly busted. I would even be happy if they limited them or semi-limited them. I know it's not correct to limit those cards so they draw them sometimes, not all the time. But dude, I'd rather play against 1 Skill Drain than 3 Skill Drains. I'd rather play against 1 Peekaboo than 3 Peekaboo, right? So I would just ban them, but if you're not willing to ban them, at least limit them or semi-limit them. The less, the better, right? Shifter and Droll Lockbird are the other 2 cards that I want to talk about. They are incredibly popular right now. I personally think that Droll Lockbird will not get hit. Honestly, that's okay. Hear me out. I'm okay with Droll Lockbird staying at 3. I don't like the card, but I think Droll Lockbird is more like a symptom than the actual problem. The formats where people play Droll Lockbird, it's usually only because some other decks do some toxic shit. Do you get what I mean? Yes, the card is stupid and it's a lingering floodgate, but it's more so like in healthy formats, people don't even look at Droll. And that's why I think it's okay for Droll to just be unlimited. Shifter, on the other hand, the reason why I don't like Shifter is because Shifter has so many more issues than Droll. The main problem is that everyone is playing Droll in this format. So it's like reasonable to prepare for Droll. Shifter is only in 1 or 2 decks, so not everyone is preparing for Shifter. You're not automatically not playing a graveyard deck because of Shifter. You're not, yeah. So I think Shifter should also be somewhere on the ban list. Are they gonna ban it? Probably not, but I'm happier with 1 or 2 Shifter than I am with 3. That's something I noticed when playing Master Duel Worlds, by the way, and preparing for Master Duel Worlds. I normally am never a fan of putting cards like Skill Drain, Peekaboo, Anti-Spell, Shifter at 1 or 2. Because in my opinion, these cards should either be at 3 or at 0, because a card is either okay or not okay, right? That is the logic. But playing Master Duel, it turns out it's still way more fun to play against 2-shifter than 3. So technically, yes, the card should be banned, but less is better. So if they don't want to ban it, at least do something about it. Let's talk about some cards that are currently on the ban list that I think could come off the ban list. Orchist Harp Horror is the perfect card to limit. I've been saying that in some past discussions. I have no idea why this card is still banned. I have also no idea why Gazelle is still limited. If there's ever a point in time where people are willing to take out their Salamangreat decks again and play with the deck, it's now. Right now, we just got good Salamangreat support, and if this card is at 2 or 3, people will actually consider playing it. If Gazelle goes back to 2 or 3, you will catch me here on stream playing Salamangreat like the day after the ban list. Literally, I'm trying it. If they don't want to bring it back to 3 immediately, I'd even be happy with 2. Hey, look. You'll notice I'm willing to compromise today. Hey, I'm not putting the floodgates in the ban section. I'm not putting Gazelle at 3. I'm willing to go for compromises, okay? I'm compromising. Give me 2. I'm happy with 2. I'll take what I can get. They should unban Pankratops. There's no way I'm the only one thinking that, right? Please tell me I'm not the only one that wants 3 Pankratops. People will literally be like, hey, yo, don't touch my skill drain. I need to sight in my skill drain when I go first so I have a chance. And then have a problem with people siding triple Pankratops for going second. You are insane. People are literally throwing evenly Dark Ruler into their decks when they go second, and you have an issue with Pankratops. There's no shot you guys are real people. I can also be trusted with the Dragon Rulers. They brought back some amount of Dragon Rulers already. They didn't do shit. I want all of them. You gave us back Spellbook of Judgment. It didn't do shit. It's not 2013 anymore. Give me back the Dragon Rulers. I can be trusted with all of them. No one is gonna use them for like stupid stuff. You're going Enchantress is what you're saying. Oh my god, yeah, you're gonna go Tidal to pitch Enchantress. Oh yes, Tidal and another water monster to pitch Enchantress is gonna freaking break the game where you can already play freaking 7 copies of Enchantress. You guys are not real. Tidal to send Rhinoheart. Oh my god, Chad. Come on, what water are you gonna discard? Oh, yeah, I'm playing freaking Mosquito going second OTK. I'm gonna go Tidal, discard Nimble Angler, send another Nimble Angler, trigger both Nimble Anglers, summon freaking 3 Nimble Sunfishes from my deck, and then kill you with freaking Mosquito. That's what I'm gonna do with Tidal. Nimble Sunfish back at it again, dude. No. The cards are not that abusable anymore. The thing is, they can only do 1 effect per turn. They either give you a level 7 extender that is very, very conditional, right? Having to banish 2 cards from the grave to get an extender is something that 1,000 other cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Do, and none of them are seeing play. They give you a mediocre discard effect. Reborning a monster is not that good. Destroying a card on the field is not that good. Searching a dragon is like fine, but like which wind deck wants to search a dragon? Like freaking people are gonna play Dragoonity or what? And freaking Tidal. Like I said, there's nothing crazy you can do with Tidal because you need to draw it together with another water monster to do what? People don't even play Foolish in like Nimble decks. So friggin' give us back the Dragon Rulers. And this is the list that saves Yu-Gi-Oh! And yes, I'm taking out the Striker Dragon. The Striker Dragon does not need to be banned. I'm sorry for the jump scare dragon enjoyers. For everyone watching on YouTube, let me know how stupid I am. Let me know how terrible my logic is. Tell me right now why I'm a complete idiot for wanting Eradicator Epidemic Virus banned. Anyways, I believe this would be a good list, and I would be very excited to play in this environment. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Peace.